Alrighty, let's talk about this topic that I am so passionate about. You asked, so I'm gonna deliver. This may be more of a longer chatty video, so I'm going to timestamp so that way you can kind of skip around to topics that you are interested in or not interested in. But I can definitely say there are some things in my life that have improved my life, that have changed my life in some way, but without a shadow of a doubt, homeschooling has hands down made a huge difference, not only in my own happiness, my children's, my marriage, my family as a whole. And funny enough, this decision was one that I made well before I even became engaged, well before I became a wife, and even before I even became a mother. And I'm so glad that I made this decision, that I wanted to homeschool my children. And so today I wanted to talk to you about some of the benefits that I've seen for my family and how it's helped improve my life and just made us so much happier. But if you're new to this channel, hey, I'm Yessie. I'm a previous hospice nurse turned homeschool mom, and my mission is to help you savor life. So this channel focuses on minimalism, and it involves a lot of different topics around minimalism, not just homeschooling. This is just, it happened to be requested, so I'm talking about this. We don't focus just on decluttering physical items and aesthetics, but rather the mindset shifts and habit changes we need to make to be able to live an abundant, fulfilling life. So if this sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss when I post a new video. I previously shared with you my minimalist homeschool curriculum and why I absolutely love that curriculum, even though I'm not sponsored by them, and how I got my child to read before the age of 4. But today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 reasons why I love homeschooling and why it's been such a blessing to me. And the first one is that it's moldable to every family's needs. This is really a topic that I think could be an entire video on its own, but I definitely see that homeschooling is unique to the individual family. For example, a parent may have a different schedule and may have like particular days of homeschooling, different routines within homeschool, but also it's moldable to the children and their own needs. So within regular school, like they basically have to learn all the same things at the same time, regardless of their interests, regardless of their strengths. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they can kind of manage with children that maybe have a different kind of learning style. But when you're home, when you're one-on-one, you can really be attuned to the child's particular needs. So I kind of talked about that within my minimalist homeschool curriculum. Like, for example, my toddler, he's very kinesthetic. He wants to touch things. He wants to maneuver things. He wants to fidget with things. And so for him, I do a lot of play. I do, like, for example, showing him the colors, I did like little flashcards, and I would let him have one if he got it right, and then he would have to give it back to me if he didn't get it right. So things like that I could do with him versus my oldest, where we could just literally go through flashcards and she would be fine doing that. So you can really pinpoint all of the different needs of each child and how they best learn. And 2, it can also really help within just the entire family's needs and the family structure. So for me, family time has been something that I've really been able to focus on because of this blessing that I get to homeschool my children. So we have this particular routine in the morning, and because my husband, like, we can kind of work around those hours. By the time he's home, we're usually free, and it's just so beautiful that we can kind of tailor it to our individual needs. I remember that when I was starting to actually plan for the curriculum and what I was actually going to do once we actually formally started homeschool, I felt really overwhelmed because I was watching a lot of YouTubers that are like homeschooling moms, and I felt like I had to do all the right things and teach them all the right things. Otherwise, I would be a failure as a mom and I would be actually harming my children in terms of their education rather than helping them. And I absolutely didn't want to do that. So what I was doing is putting this weight upon myself of doing all these different little things. Like I had this binder where I made all of these little activities, and I would hand make them and cut them out and put them on laminate paper, and they'd have to like glue them on and do all these little different activities that I was making or feeling like I had to buy in order for them to learn the appropriate things. And it really honestly made me feel inadequate. It made me feel like I was failing at this homeschooling thing, and it just made me overwhelmed. I didn't mention this in my homeschool video last time because I didn't want it to sound like an attack, so I want to be very careful with my wording. There's one particular YouTuber that I loved her content. It was really helpful, and she actually provided the resource for the book that I used to teach my children to read before the age of 4. So I'm really thankful for that. But when I started to watch more of her content, I started feeling more and more like I was comparing myself to her, like I needed to buy her things because she sells a lot of stuff. I mean, that she needs to make money, that's fine. But I didn't have the budget to go and buy all of these extra activities, and I didn't want to make all of these extra activities. They were only making me feel more overwhelmed. It just felt like hardcore or hardcore homeschooling. So for me, I really felt like my approach was more of a minimalist approach. Like I didn't want a whole bunch of like stuff, what do you call it, manipulatives in my home, that way we could kind of do it more really loose and not be as structured. I definitely want like routines, but I didn't want to have like so many things that I had to like check off my list. We got to do this, we got to do this. So the homeschool curriculum that I found was super helpful was The Good and the Beautiful. I'm not sponsored by them. I just really loved their stuff because it really already involves a lot of different activities and cutouts and puzzles. And it has like this app that you can also use with audiobooks. It also has like little videos that kind of go along with stories. So it has so many things already within the curriculum that I don't have to like go out and buy or like set up and do all of these different things. It's so moldable. Homeschool is so moldable. Like not even just that curriculum. You can use whatever curriculum you want, but it can really be as intense as you want it. If you want to go that route and make all of these things by hand, you can. But I am glad to know that I didn't have to, that I could just kind of simplify it and just take it easy. Like it doesn't have to be as complex as people make it. A second thing that I also love about homeschooling is that it can also allow you to prioritize your values. And this is something that is so beautiful, but it's because it's going to be unique to your family and what it is that you value. So for example, discipline is something that I definitely value, something that I definitely need to work on more, but I can really work on instilling that into my children at a very young age. So for example, working out in the yard and like just having them move dirt around with their little wheelbarrow, or like sweeping the house, or helping me actually carry the laundry into their rooms and putting it away. All of those little things, I consider them part of homeschool. It's important in our daily routines for me because I value discipline and all these little things of having them helping and working in the house or working outside the house. Eventually they're gonna know when they grow up and they watch these videos that I was having them like move dirt around just for the heck of it, not because I actually needed them to move dirt around. But whatever, sorry kids. Like it's really to help them develop discipline and develop a love for hard work and a work ethic. Those are things that I value. And then like another example, caring for nature. I definitely want them to also have those values of being able to appreciate nature and that the trees provide the air that we breathe. So we need to take care of the planet. So we do that through like gardening. We actually have a garden every year. We have little plants inside the house that now they have each their own little plants that they have to take care of and like really watch. Are they needing water? Do they have too much water? Things like that. It's so beautiful that you can also prioritize your values, whatever those might be. Maybe you value exercise and you want them to be really fit. One of the things that I do with my kids is I throw them outside, unless it's rainy, because honestly, I don't want to do a whole bunch of laundry. I just have them make forts here in the living room and they have at it. Like they toss and run around all over the living room and it looks a mess, but I don't care. I just don't want to wash muddy laundry. Some people do though. They take their kids outside even if it's raining, no matter the weather. But for me, I definitely take them out. If it's not raining, I stick them outside for at least an hour every single day. And it also like gets them to move and be creative and just have like non-structured play where they can just play independently. And it also like helps with my sanity. So it also gives me some free time where maybe I can read a book, work on YouTube, cook, for example. So it really allows you to prioritize your values. The third thing that I love was really honestly a shock, and it is that it frees up so much time. So I worked as a nurse and I was a salary paid nurse. So sometimes I would work well over 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours. Like I sometimes would come home for dinner and sometimes I wouldn't come home for dinner. I mean, it gave us a good insurance source and it gave us a good income source, which was actually our only stable income source because my husband works in construction. And I really worried. I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like I felt kind of nervous sometimes, like I'm gonna quit my job and this is our only income, like stable income source, and it's our only source of insurance. I mean, we now have like a healthcare sharing ministry. It's called Christian healthcare ministries. So that way we can have like a backup if something were to happen, but we don't have like traditional insurance and we don't have that stable income source. And this YouTube channel really, I mean, I'm thankful for it, but it's like generating like $30 to $40 a month after almost 4 years of working on this channel. It's not enough to pay the bills. And so I worried about, like, am I making the right choice? And honestly, once I let go of that job and I was able to submerge myself in homeschooling and actually being able to be home, it just was such a change for my entire family. It allowed my husband's stress to really lower because yes, he was the provider now, but at the same time, I was able to be a support to him. He was able to come home without having to worry about picking up the kids and scrambling around because maybe I wasn't going to come home, so he had to go and do it after his long work day, or prepping dinner because I didn't have the time to do it, or like bathing the kids, all those little things. Like now he has a lot less stress to manage the home because I'm able to do that here in the home. I also had a lot less stress because I was home and I was able to like manage the home. And honestly, decluttering and having a minimal home has been a huge blessing, because now I don't have a lot of things to manage. I don't have a lot of things to clean and put away. Generally, if my house looks a mess, they play here and they make a fort or whatever, we can clean that up in like 15 minutes. Like it looks like a total hot mess because there's toys all over the place and blankets and pillows, but really it's not a whole lot to clean. It really doesn't take a lot of effort. And because my kids, I consider cleaning a part of their homeschool because it's discipline and I value discipline, I have a lot less to do. Like my kids take out their own clothes to their rooms, or my daughter kind of helps me sweep and doesn't do an awesome job, but like it's basically I'm getting help through the home. And so it really freed up time for me and allowed me to work on the thing that I love. I did love nursing, but it was really, really tough to actually work for an entity, because at the end of the day, healthcare is a business, and I loved hospice and I loved my patients and I missed that part. But working for the actual business part was tough. It was tough. So I am now so thankful that I can work on the thing that I love and be able to create on my own time and be here with my family and be a support to my husband. And I felt like the more time I had for me, like the happier I was and the happier our whole family was, because I was a better wife when I was happier, because I had time to actually shave my legs instead of like hibernate when I used to do that, because I'd have to work and then come home and like prep dinner and take care of the kids. It was so exhausting. I felt like I always was running from here to there and I was always behind on something, and I felt like I was in this little hamster wheel all the time. And now that I'm home, I'm so much happier, and that peace that I have inside, it radiates and it shows to my husband, which we're a lot happier now. And we were always very cuddly, very lovey-dovey people, but we're definitely a lot happier now. I specifically saw a huge change in my daughter, who was diagnosed with autism, and she really struggled a lot in the first couple of years after the diagnosis. And once I was actually able to be home, I saw a huge change, because even though I tried to really be a support to her, I was constantly working, I was constantly doing something, so I wasn't really present, and my husband works a lot too, so it was like she didn't have our attention and our full support that she needed. And so once I was home, I saw her bloom. I saw her blossom and grow. Her anxiety lowered so much. She says hi to people on her own without me like having to like, come on, say hi. I mean, it's just been such a huge blessing, because I'm able to actually notice all the little things that go on throughout the day with my children. And so I can encourage them in whatever particular area that they need growth in, not just the intellectual part. And the fourth thing that I love about it is that there are tons of resources. So really, you can do as much or as little as you want to. I know a lot of people, they really want their kids like submerged in sports and all these different activities, and you can do some of that, but you really have a lot of flexibility with whatever you want to do. So for example, last summer we had our kids go to the YMCA, just have like swim lessons. I guess it wasn't really formal swim lessons because I couldn't pay for the swim lessons, but I would take them every single week, and like I would kind of work with them on learning how to swim, and it really helped ease their anxiety. And so that was something that we kind of decided, okay, we could do that kind of over the summer, and that way it's not like a lot all throughout the year. If you use Facebook, you can also find a lot of different homeschool groups that meet up, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly. So that way your kids can kind of have like a recurring interaction with kids, and really kind of also give you that kind of boost of having people that actually are doing what it is that you are doing. I know for me, that was definitely something that I was praying for. I really didn't want to be alone in this. I really wanted friends that also do homeschool their kids, so that I could like have a chat with adults, because sometimes I do miss that adult interaction, and a lot of my friends, like during the morning time, they're like working or doing something else, so it's not as easy to just kind of have like little play dates here and there. So having a homeschool group, and we do have a homeschool group that we meet once a week, and I have absolutely loved it. It's been such a blessing, not only for my children to have that interaction and to kind of grow in socially, but also for me Again, like a lot of the reasons that I love homeschool is because it's not only good for the kids, but it also gives me like that mental sanity. It gives me a break. It gives me adult interaction. It also just kind of gives me that encouragement from other people that are doing the same thing that I am doing. So that way I can ask people that have like more kids or older kids, like, oh, how did this go? Or how did you do this particular thing? So homeschool groups can be very helpful. If you have Facebook, you can find them on there as well. Sometimes private schools, you might be able to find that they have like an enrichment day. As in our case, we have basically my daughter is going to a private school once a week, which is actually very cheap. It's like $50 a month. So I guess it was more of like a charity thing that they are trying to get people that are being homeschooled to have that extra time to be able to socialize and grow together. You can also use a lot of different resources where you don't have to pay. So for example, the library. I have loved using the library as a resource. They often, and just depending where you live, will have like free events, and just kind of check out their calendar. That's something that we have definitely done. So like Valentine's Day and Christmas, they have like little arts and crafts things. So we often take them, and there's other little kids there too. And a lot of times if there are older kids, they're likely homeschooled because they would be in school during that time. So it's just a really, really great resource. So just look around in your area. I bet you there are tons of resources that you might just not know about. And the last reason why I love homeschooling is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as intricate and elaborate as you want it to be, or as simple as you want it to be. So I did mention briefly that I felt really overwhelmed when I started watching all of these other YouTubers talking about all the activities that they were doing, and I felt like I had to do it their way and apply their secret sauce or their secret formula. And once I just let go of that and I decided, okay, this is the curriculum that I want. This is a simple curriculum. It has a lot of things already kind of intertwined into it, so there's not a lot of things that I have to manage. I found like what little things I wanted to add, and then I didn't feel like I had to do a whole lot more. And really learning this particular tidbit really helped change the way that I viewed my homeschooling, and it's that you can make a lesson out of anything. So when I was a nurse, I became a preceptor. And a preceptor is somebody who basically like teaches other nurses. So I basically had like my little duckling along with me everywhere I went. I went with this patient and they watched me, and then I went with this patient and they did things with me. And I think of homeschooling kind of like back to those days. Like it reminds me of when I was a preceptor and how I approached like teaching other nurses, because my kids are basically with me everywhere. They go with me everywhere. So everything is a lesson. Like all the little things is a lesson. So for example, it was a friend's birthday, and out of that friend's birthday, we made like an entire lesson, because we went through the days of the week, the months of the year, what was 1 week ago, what's 1 week from now, what's your birthday, and actually made a letter. So we actually wrote down, so that was also practicing like writing and reading. And we made a letter for this friend and we colored this. And then we actually talked about like postage and how does it work and what country do we live in and what's your address, and actually like mailing the letter. And then another thing that I wanted to do, because I also want my children to know that money is a tool that they can use for good. Because when I was younger, I really felt a lot of anxiety towards money because I grew up poor. I grew up in Mexico. I know what it's like to be hungry and have one shirt to wear. And so I had this scarcity mindset. And I don't want that for my kids. I want them to know that they can have money, that they ought to look for money, but they ought to look for the ways that they can bless people with money. And so we have a little box that we got from Etsy that says give, save, spend. And so part of that lesson became counting money. So they're kind of entailed math. And then actually figuring out what kind of a little cake or pastry that they could buy for this friend. So my kiddos got out their money from their give box and they counted the money, and we went to the store, and then my daughter paid for it by herself. And so she had to kind of like learn how to manage money. And then at the end of paying, like I had to help her a little bit because she gave $1 too much. I'm like, see, but it was a lesson. And then she like got to actually deliver the cake. And so it was a beautiful way to encompass something normal in life and actually make it into a lesson. So for example, recycling. We made a lesson out of recycling, and then I got out like the little magic school bus books, and we talked about recycling and how that works and how it affects the environment, all these little things. Like any little thing that you do, even gardening, for example, can become a lesson. We can talk about photosynthesis, we can talk about how plants grow, life cycles, water cycles, all sorts of things. And just for the heck of it, I asked my 5-year-old what she loves about homeschooling, and she says that she loves that our curriculum has games. So it has a lot of different things, like the app. I'll probably like see if I can make it on the screen, but there's a little app that ours has that has letter tiles so that she can basically, it's almost like a little Scrabble thing where she can jot down different words. And then the app that we use also has like lots of different videos and audio, little books that are like ebooks. And you can also do that through your library. I didn't mention, if you do have a library card, your library often has ebooks available. So you don't even have to go to your library. You can actually have ebooks available within your home. So you don't have to actually get a whole bunch of different things. And so if you can take anything away from this, is that homeschooling can be super simple and it can be super fun. It can be such a huge blessing, not only for your children, but for you as well and your family as a whole. I've definitely loved being able to not only nurture my children, but also give time to myself for my hobbies and for the things that really bring me a lot of value, so that I can therefore really feel so much more full once I've eased that stress, eased that anxiety, because I had so much to do, so much on my plate. I'm so much happier. And yes, I make a lot less money. I miss sometimes that income because now I have to live simply and I can't just go out and buy the things that I would want. There's a lot of things that I would love to buy for myself that I can't necessarily do that now, but I'm so much happier. I'm so much happier, and it's so worth it because I have reduced my life and live simply. So now that I kind of really prioritize the things that value the most to me, I feel like I'm getting a lot more fulfillment out of my life. And that's really why I wanted to homeschool to begin with. I didn't feel like I was going to be like the best mother, and I definitely didn't feel like that within the first few years, especially when we didn't know what my daughter's diagnosis was. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing wrong? I'm a horrible parent. I'm like, I've done this to her. Like, why does she have so much anxiety? I felt like it was me. I felt like it was my fault. And so in the very beginning, I definitely felt like I was a failure as a mother, and I was really harsh to myself. And I had a lot of anxiety in reference to whether or not I was actually doing a good job as a mother. And I feel now that even though I've had to like sacrifice things, I've had to sacrifice that income and other things that I would be able to have, that I see it. I actually see the change from my family then to my family now, and my own happiness and how I'm able to bless other people because I love myself, because I have the time to give to myself now. So I hope that this video has given you some little tidbits of value, whether you are homeschooling or whether you are wanting to homeschool or just have any curiosity about it, that it really can be a very beautiful thing. So whether or not you are actually homeschooling or looking into homeschooling or just curious, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up because it really helps support my channel. And if you have any other requests for things that you would like to see from me, be sure to leave them down in the comments below or send me an email. Until next time, bye for now.